So the movie is ExisTenz, released in 1999, written and directed by David Cronenberg. And I've got my book today, my coffee table David Cronenberg book, David Cronenberg Clinical Trials by Violet Lucca, which I have to give a shout out to Sean for Food for Thought. You know Food for Thought, the podcast? He sent me this book. And so it's this like massive coffee table book all about David Cronenberg. But it's amazing. And there's some stuff about ExisTenz in here that I thought would be relevant to what we're talking about today. So we saw this movie at the Academy Museum, which is in Los Angeles, and it was in the huge theater, which I had never been in before. I'd only seen stuff in the theater that's like down below the museum. And Cronenberg came and he did a Q&A for about, which is like half an hour or so afterwards.
Yeah, 30, 40 minutes, something like that.
They did Videodrome the day before, and I was really hoping to go see Videodrome, but as it turns out, one of my friends went to Videodrome, and she said the Q&A was like kind of because Cronenberg had just arrived in LA, and he was like really tired from the flight. And
he's old.
He's in his 80s. Yeah, but he was in really good form. I thought when we saw it, he was very funny. He was very and I was really glad to see ExisTenz on the big screen because that was my second time seeing it. I first watched this movie December of 2024. And I've watched it twice in January of 2025 now. So I've seen it 3 times. You thought it was Alan Rickman or something.
I thought it was a different movie. And I was like, I've seen it once like 20 years ago.
The movie you thought it was doesn't exist.
I made up a movie for like a couple of weeks saying like it'd be good.
You thought it was a movie with Alan Rickman.
It'd be good to re-see this movie. I saw like 15 years ago. I don't remember it well. I'm like, but I do remember these parts. Those parts didn't happen at all.
Nothing about the movie you remember exists or never did.
Just invented a movie that doesn't exist. So ExisTenz, I thought I had seen it, but I don't think I have.
No Alan Rickman.
I didn't remember any of it. I liked it. It's like a lot of, and the reason I always get those two confused, and the reason I say sometimes I don't like David Lynch is I like some of his stuff. Like I like Twin Peaks and some other things he's done. But then oh my God, Daddy's just shitting himself. He's already sitting in this stew filth, and he's happy about
stew filth.
Just oh my God. It's like those like hot chick streamers who basically just set up a stream and they set up like a kiddie pool with water and they just sit there.
That's not a thing.
Yeah, it is, and they just sit there in a bikini basically.
So it's like high school students who watch it.
Yeah.
Why? Because an adult would never need to watch that.
Because it's a hot chick, right? And she like whatever. We should do that, but you just sit in your filth, shit your pants
naked in a pool and just shit in it.
A thong.
Just shit, and it splits when it comes out. Like splitting the atom?
Like when a rhino wiggles its tail and just sprays it everywhere?
It'd be like Oppenheimer,
yeah,
except for me shitting in a pool.
Unbelievable. So as I was saying, the reason I don't like some David Lynch stuff is it gets like really weird.
So what did we like Blue Velvet?
I like Blue Velvet.
Mulholland Drive?
Like that gets a little weird, but like
Lost Highway?
Lost Highway. Like
yeah.
I remember watching Lost Highway, hating it, and I'm like, I don't know what the fuck's going on. So Cronenberg stuff I like more. Like I love.
What have you seen? I know you've seen Shivers because we saw that together.
Seen Shivers.
Videodrome, The Fly. Oh yeah, you love The Fly.
And then newer stuff like History of Violence, Eastern Promises, ExisTenz.
Is Eastern Promises basically like your life?
No.
But are you like the uncle in that movie?
Yeah.
Who's like warning them against hanging out with the okay.
But so I like Cronenberg stuff more because I like body horror stuff and his films like they're fairly straightforward, right? They're not like super
like
weird
another thing that I've loved about his movies. So if you're unfamiliar with my relationship with David Cronenberg, I had seen like maybe 3 of his movies before 2024, and I watched 19 of them in like a month.
Yeah, damn.
I called it the Cronen binge.
That's crazy.
And now I'm reading this book, and like I went to see him live, like I'm obsessed. None of his movies are long. Like they're very like to the point. Like he has a very clear, concise idea. Like the narratives are not cluttered. There's like a central theme.
ExisTenz was what
97 minutes, I think.
That. It's a fun movie. It's real interesting. It's pretty straightforward. Like the small spoilers. Yeah,
we're gonna spoil the whole thing. So the plot of the should I give the plot real quick?
Plot.
So the plot of the movie is Jennifer Jason Leigh plays a woman who her name is Allegra Geller, and she is revered as this like brilliant video game creator. And in addition to creating video games, she actually creates like an entirely new platform. And in order to play these video games, you actually have to plug them into a bioport in your body through this thing that looks like an umbilical cord.
What's happening now?
So yeah. There's a lot of stuff about this movie, which is 26 years old, that is happening now. And he talked about that in the Q&A. I'll get into more of the shit later. But so essentially, she develops this new game. People come to try it out in this test run, and someone tries to assassinate her. And Jude Law plays a marketing intern for the video game company. His name is Ted Pikel. He ends up helping her escape, and they go on the run together basically while these people are trying to hunt her down and kill her. And they're like like technology zealots basically, who don't believe that the human body should be corrupted or that people should have bioboards. The game should directly interface with our bodies and our biology and our minds and things like that. There's many layers of reality in this movie which you don't at first realize. Which I think is a very intelligent way to set the movie up, because the audience assumes that whatever it's seeing in the first scene is like base reality, and then you go from there. When actually for this movie, that is not the case, and so he's throwing you off immediately with the first scene, which I really like. And I have a lot to say about this movie, but I want you to talk first, so I don't just monologue over you the whole time.
It opens with the scene where they brought a test group of gamers to I think it's like a church or something.
Yeah.
And they're testing out her new game that's not on the market yet, right? And
you know more about video games than me too, so you can speak to some of that stuff.
And that does happen. Like they have game testers to look for bugs and different things like that. And so they start this test up, but there's an attack, like an assassination attempt on her. And I think it's because they're trying to separate reality and freedom versus like being stuck in like a game.
Yeah, they want to like be like all organic,
yeah,
no virtual realities.
Right. So
like that, yeah.
So she and Pike is her guard, I guess, go on the run. They run into different situations that they have to deal with. One is Willem Dafoe. No.
Yeah, Willem Dafoe. Yeah.
Willem Dafoe.
Gas. His name is Gas.
As a gas person. And he gives Pike this like shitty...
Pikel.
Gas
station. He works at a gas station, and
he's a big fan.
The Jude Law character has no
port. He does like black market ports or something like that. But anyway, basically, at the end of the film, you realize that whole thing was a game.
Yeah, they were testing a game.
They're testing games. So they come out of it, and you realize Amanda, right? Allegra.
He doesn't remember anything about this movie.
Allegra Geller and the Jude Law character, they're actually a couple. They're not game designers, anything. The actual game designer is someone else, and they've been playing this game the whole time. In this game, that opening scene where they set up a test and there's an assassination and they go on the run, that is the game. So it reminded me, there's elements of The Matrix in there. There's a lot of elements of Total Recall.
Oh, yeah.
The Schwarzenegger, a lot. Because in Total Recall, you pay basically to go on a virtual vacation. And then he doesn't know if he's on a vacation or not. And you kind of get that feeling in this thing where in the simulation, they jack into another simulation.
Yeah, so they're like levels down.
And so they don't really know what's real.
Well, and it's interesting that they start to lose sense of themselves.
Yeah, they do.
The deeper they go into it and the more versions of themselves that start to exist. But something else that I find so interesting, because I've seen this movie 3 times now, so each time you rewatch it,
you know it better.
You learn
I've only
more
seen
about
it twice.
But
once now, once
with Alan Rickman.
Yeah.
And
so I was still trying to like merge the 2 films together. I'm gonna write that film.
But Alan Rickman passed away.
I'll cast Ralph Fiennes.
There's a point in this movie. So one of the things I found so interesting is that everyone is playing the game, right? We are just seeing the journey of the 2 main characters, but everyone else is on their own mission within the game trying to complete something, right? We don't see all of their missions, but they are out there doing stuff the whole time. What I found so interesting in talking about like losing sense of yourself and your reality changing and your all of these things as you get deeper and deeper into the simulation, there is a scene where the Jennifer Jason Leigh, well, I guess it's a sequence. There's a sequence where the Jennifer Jason Leigh character starts acting like a video game character.
She starts acting weird.
And then he pauses the game. And when they go back into it, she starts acting normally again. And so I started to wonder if, like, is she off on a different part of the mission at that point? And he is with, like, a game avatar type of thing.
It's possible.
And they're pursuing different things, but he doesn't know that at the time. And there's a really interesting moment right before that sequence where Jennifer Jason Leigh is talking about characters getting stuck in a game loop where they're just doing these repetitive patterns of behavior and they can't get out of it. And you start to think about the game as a metaphor for people's lives and like getting deep into these simulations and like creating all these again in the social media era, right?
Yeah.
You have a different personality on Twitter than you have on Instagram, than you have on YouTube.
Different audiences, so yeah.
So you're creating all of these fake versions of yourself. You start to like have this fractured sense of identity and reality as you get deeper and deeper into these simulations. But then the idea of like living in a game loop where you just do this repetitive shit over and over and over again, and you need something really, really jarring to change your pattern of behavior. And I think that's true of like you get into this, you get a job or you have kids or like your life becomes it becomes a pattern and a routine.
Yeah.
And unless something like, for instance, what happened in LA recently with the fires, God forbid, like if your house burns down or like someone is affected by that, that is something that a tragic, horrible thing has to happen to break you out of these game loops.
Yeah.
Right. Which in the movie, in some instances, is like extreme violence is what breaks people out of these loops.
Yeah, because I mean, in regular video games, this happens too. You have your NPCs, your non-playable characters who kind of are there to do a specific function. So like if you're playing some open world RPG and you're in some town, you have your set characters and they have like a set thing that they're doing. So like from this time to this time, they're walking from here to here. From this time, they're doing like here. This time, they're at their store, son, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And generally, that's all they do. But every now and then, you progress farther enough in the game that some new branch of dialogue or actions opens up, and you go talk to them, and it takes you in a new direction. And we kind of saw that in the beginning where they go to that store and
The video game store?
Yeah,
Yeah.
the store owner like gets stuck on a loop because the main characters aren't saying the right thing to progress it further. So that was kind of interesting. And I get the metaphor you're going for. It's apt. I agree.
Hong doesn't give a fuck. He's just shitting on me. Okay.
I was trying not to shit during your metaphor because I was like, damn, I don't know how I'm going to cut
Okay,
that
so
out.
here are some things I noticed the second time watching this movie, right? When you watch it the second time, you know that they're in a video game right away.
Yeah.
And you know that they are not who you think they are in the game, right? The scenery, and this is actually, I was reading about this in this book, that this was like a deliberate thing that they did with the production design and stuff. It's all very blank and anonymous, right? It's just like blank one-colored walls, and everyone's wearing like one-colored shirts, and all of their clothes look the same. And it's supposed to look like a video game from that era where they had relatively low like bit rate resolution, whatever. And so
99 was like,
if you were to watch it, like,
64.
well, like the first time I watched it, I was like, this kind of looks like a low budget, like it looks like a cheap like WB type of show. Like they didn't put a lot of effort into the set design. Then I watch it again and I'm like, oh, it's a video game. And some of the dialogue is really corny and the way it's delivered is weird and the accents that people have are really weird. But then you find out it's because it's video game dialogue and they're not real people, they're characters. So they have these weird accents and there's so many layers to the way that the movie is made that you don't realize going through it the first time because you don't have all the information. The other thing I thought was so interesting watching it the second time was, when you eventually come to find out that the Jennifer Jason Leigh and Jude Law characters are not gamers. They have infiltrated this game test, right? The Jude Law character is obviously very uncomfortable with the whole thing. Like he's really uptight and like tense and awkward. She fucking loves it. She's like having these orgasmic experiences being jacked into this video game, right? And she also, there are scenes where you see her just like walking around like when they go to the gas station and Jude Law's character goes in to get the port from the Willem Dafoe character. You see her outside just like touching the wall, touching the gas pump, touching the flowers. Like she's really interested in this world and she's really enjoying being in it. Yeah.
It's like when you play a big RPG, like you're playing Grand Theft Auto, right? Sometimes you just drive around to look at stuff, like look at and you see what you can get into. Like you drive to the ocean in the Grand Theft Auto. Can I swim? Yeah, you can swim in it. You can go underwater. You can fly. You can do all this stuff. So you kind of drive around looking for stuff, and that's what I saw there. And
I also just think you see her character starting to doubt her zealotry of like, hey, this actually isn't bad, but he is sticking very close to it.
Very stiff, yeah.
But then there's the gender and sexual stuff.
There's
where
a lot of sexual innuendo.
Well, when he gets the port and she's like licking it and sticking the thing in,
it
and
looks
it's
like
like
an anus.
It does, but it's also like
supposed to.
He's got a hole in him, and she's like sticking stuff in it, and there's the whole thing of like. This came up.
She treats the pod too like her baby.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. She cries about it, and like, well, and Cronenberg in the Q&A talked about how he's like, if you think about if he was talking about himself, like he's got 3 kids, 4 grandkids. If his phone with his pictures of his grandkids and his children and whatever broke and all that information became irretrievable, he would be really sad. And he's talking about like this emotional response to a dependency upon technology. And you see that a lot in the movie. I love the whole thing with Jude Law really not wanting a bioport and then remember there's the bit, this came up in the Q&A too, where Jude Law is like, how do you have an opening in your body and it doesn't get infected? And she just opens her mouth. Yeah, like, duh. You have a mouth, you idiot. You have ears. Like,
and you do have an anus.
You have an anus. Yeah.
Pee hole.
Yep. Well, and women have obviously vaginas. And like, so it's all.
The fourth?
The 4th hole? Is that what you call it?
Or the 5th?
Or the 1st? Which one is the 1st? The mouth?
I guess.
If you're counting like up to down, or if you count from the ground up.
Yeah. So there's a lot of scenes like that, and it's interesting. He does a lot of body horror stuff in a lot of his films.
But he also does. There's a lot of like, you know, I mean, in reading this book too, you really see there's a lot of stuff that plays with gender and sexuality in his movies. And he said in the Q&A, she asked him about that, and he said that he never really explicitly considered the idea that he was playing with gender and sexuality. He just assumed that everyone existed in like this kind of state of fluidity and confusion about it.
Right.
And I thought that was really interesting. And one of the most influential movies on his life is an underground Canadian film. It was the first Canadian film to show at the Cannes Film Festival, which is about 2 male college students who both have girlfriends but kind of fall in love with each other. And that was a really big movie in Canada at the time. So he's like, and that was the movie that made him want to go out and start making movies and that opened doors for Canadian filmmakers to make movies. This was in like the late 60s, I think. And so it's interesting to think of like that's kind of like the base thing that he's coming from moving forward. There's a kind of one of the plot lines in this movie is that there's this factory where they're killing all of these weird animals and ripping out their guts and using them to make the video game pods.
I like tinkering.
And they're using those parts to make the pods, right? The video game pods, which look like these fleshy. I mean, the thing that you push to turn it on looks like a clit. Like the whole thing is very sexual, right?
Yeah, there was knobs and they twisted.
Well, and it's interesting because it was apparently the original design was supposed to have like microchips. It's supposed to be like more high tech, and I guess Cronenberg just thought it didn't look good, so they went in a different direction, and they kind of were thinking along the lines of like these people use these games are like an extension of their body and of their being. So what if it looked more organic and like more fleshy? So they're killing these animals. And they're destroying all this biodiversity, which is, I mean, it's so interesting that this was 26 years ago because now we live in a world where, you know, all this horrible shit is happening for iPhones and things like that, where they're doing all the mining and killing all these people. And like, and he talked about that in the Q&A, and he talked about how like, is there really a solution for that? Like, can we make society go backwards? No, we can't. So what is the solution to try to have things the way they are, but without so much brutality involved in it? But he's really into insects. Remember he was talking about bugs and biodiversity and shit like that? You have no idea.
I thought you said incest.
Insects.
I got it.
Yeah, in the Q&A, he talks a lot about how he loves insects and how he thinks they're fascinating. And there's so many undiscovered insects.
Oh, yeah.
And so it's interesting that there is a kind of like an environmentalist strain of thought in this film about the destruction of the environment for technology. And that he is someone who is very much like personally interested in these things as he studied it in college, right? You have no idea what's going on right now. No idea. Do you remember the Salman Rushdie thing that they talked about?
Yeah.
Salman Rushdie?
Yeah.
So that's actually mentioned in this book. So I want to let's talk about
that.
that. Okay. So in 1995, Cronenberg went to London to interview Rushdie for something called Shift magazine. At that time, he was living basically in hiding, right? Because there was a fatwa against him because he wrote the Satanic Verses in 1988. The supreme leader of Iran basically said, there's a direct quote here. He issued a fatwa against all those involved in its publication. So the Japanese translator of the book, I didn't know this, was actually murdered.
Yeah, man.
And so Rushdie went into hiding. Cronenberg went and interviewed him. And among other things, they actually talked about video games and whether or not they believed video game creators could be considered artists. And
That's been an ongoing debate for a long time in video games is like, are they just like a game? Some of them have like hours and hours of cutscenes and like acting and storylines that are like comparable to films and different things like that. And they evoke feelings of things from you. So like at what point does like a video game become art, right? And it's in this film too. Like at what point does her game become art? And I think, like you were saying, her character begins to doubt herself a little bit as she's seen this world. And there's a scene early on at the gas station where she's outside feeling stuff and she sees like this little lizard flying creature, some creature that shouldn't exist in the regular world. And she's like mesmerized by it because it's like it's something you wouldn't see normally, and it's like beautiful and cool.
But I think the thing that she finds so interesting about it is because of the way that this game works. It's not that you're playing someone on a TV; you're actually in the game.
You're in the game,
so she can touch this thing.
Yeah,
and all of these worlds that she could no longer previously access. And interestingly, as they get deeper into the simulated realities and their inhibitions start to go down, they have sex in that closet, right? Because they like can't control their like animal desires for each other because they're stripping away. It's interesting. Like the deeper they go into the virtual reality, it's like they're going further into their own subconscious. They're stripping away, but they're starting to get away from the constraints of living in society because they're like this completely in their minds.
There's some games that deal with like in this game because they connect with their own device in their actual world. And they play kind of characters, but they're playing themselves. And there's a gamer where you control. It's not nearly as good, right? But you control.
But that's always fun, isn't it?
It's fun. You control like a real person avatar, right?
Yeah.
And so that raises a lot of ethical questions in terms of like what you make them do. And we're getting to the point with like VR and AR and different like online games where you're controlling these avatars and they're getting closer and closer to human beings. So like. Then you start having the whole debate of like violence in the games, and it's like when these, it's funny when.
So if you have like an AI consciousness in an avatar,
but that too, but like when you're playing like Space Invaders and you kill the aliens, like it's just whatever. But then you're playing like a game with like really realistic graphics, and you're like butchering someone and torturing someone, like it begins raising like a lot of ethical questions, right? I'm not one of those people who thinks like just because you play a violent game, you're going to go out and commit violent acts. But we're getting to the point where soon this will be like reality. Like you'll be able to like tap into some kind of port and you'll wear some kind of equipment and you'll be able to like feel in the game world and move in the game world. And it'll be like really realistic. You're not going to be able to tell the difference at that point. Like we're getting closer and closer to that. And then it's like, well, what if you go in this game world with your avatar as yourself and you go and attack somebody and you beat the shit out of them and they could feel it because they're wearing the suit? Like,
and then what if you die? And what is the weirdness of dying and then just taking the thing off and you're not dead anymore?
And then the more and more you play and the more the two worlds blend together, it's going to be like a Black Mirror episode. And there's going to be some naughty stuff. There's going to be so much naughty stuff. Because that's what innovates.
Of course there are.
That's what innovates it all, right?
So there's two things about this I find really interesting. One, obviously, this movie is literally kind of about that. It's about people trying to assassinate video game developers because they think that what they're doing is somehow like unholy or transgressive.
Basically, they're trying to assassinate artists and
a point that the author of this book, Violet Lucca, her name is, the David Cronenberg book I have in front of me, a point that she makes that I think is really interesting that I didn't think about, which did not come up. Because in the Q&A, actually, this was really funny, where the woman doing the Q&A said, I read on Wikipedia she said, I read online that your interview with Salman Rushdie inspired the idea of this movie. And he's like, yeah, I read that on Wikipedia too. Because he hadn't seen the movie in so long. He read the Wikipedia about it.
He's reading the Wikipedia about himself to see what was, and he's like, it's pretty accurate.
And then she was like, remember she said, so he said something like, well, according to Wikipedia, I'm still alive, so I must be. And he watched the trailer. Remember, he's like, I watched the trailer. I was like, yeah, this movie's pretty good.
Well, it's like when we saw Rob Zombie and he hadn't seen House of a Thousand Corpses in like 20 years.
Yeah.
And he's like, hey, it's not as bad as I thought.
So the author of this book, the point I'm trying to make here is that she has the interpretation or makes the point that the movie also in some ways is about what happens to an artist when your art is no longer yours and basically becomes a weapon that other people use against you. And that's something that Cronenberg actually experienced after Shivers came out.
Mhm.
And then I think I can't remember if this was before Rabid or Rabid was his second, like, he made a couple like underground
Right.
experimental art.
We saw
films.
Shivers, right? Or did we see?
We
Rabbit?
watched Shivers. It's that really nasty one about like the
They're in like
parasites.
apartment
Yeah.
complex. Yeah.
So after Shivers came out, he got kicked out of his house because his landlord read some article or was told by a friend that he made like pornography basically.
Oh wow.
And he and his family got kicked out of their house. And
That's wild.
then he moved across the street. But
That's crazy.
like,
to me.
there are-
There's already pornography at the time. You can clearly tell the difference that it's not.
right. But the movie he made before ExisTenz was Crash, which I actually haven't seen, but is a very controversial movie. The reason I haven't seen it is
Not the Crash that like won an Oscar.
No.
This is the Crash with the
car crashes and
James
sex,
Spader,
Jim
right?
Spader,
Yeah.
and the
I
reason
haven't seen it either.
No, I haven't seen it yet because it's in the Criterion collection, and I got a Criterion gift certificate for Christmas. I'm waiting for the flash sale, and I'm gonna buy Naked Lunch and Crash,
We
which
should watch that together. I think I've seen Naked Lunch,
I haven't seen that.
but I don't.
Which
I've
had
never seen-
Paul Weller's in it, or Peter Weller. RoboCop is in Naked Lunch.
but I've never seen Crash. I heard it's kind of nasty.
Yeah, same. That's why I'm excited to see it.
I think the gist of it is like it's a couple who get off on
Car crashes.
causing car
Yeah.
crashes, right? So they get off on like the carnage and the mayhem.
Yeah, but it's also like a body horror.
Yeah.
So the idea I just think that's a really interesting idea because you look at Salman Rushdie, and all he did was write a book, and then someone else sees that book, decides that it's like against their religion or whatever, and somebody literally is assassinated, killed,
Yeah.
whatever you want to call it, simply because they translated it into another language. So it's like this existence in a way.
It's like the shit that happened back in like the Middle Ages.
Yeah, it's like,
It's like heresy and shit.
and it's like the fear of creating art that then becomes something that other people can use against you. And I think to me, that's a really interesting
So-
interpretation. That was a really interesting conversation. I thought you were just going to say you didn't like it and it was cheesy and stupid, and then I'd have to talk for 50
no,
minutes.
I would have told you that immediately.
I know,
after
no,
the
I know.
film.
But I thought you said there were things about it you didn't love.
There was things about it I didn't love.
Like what? Well, you didn't tell us. You're going to waste your final minute shitting our bait. Oh, it's just a burp.
It's just a burp.
What about it didn't you love?
I didn't love some of the silliness in it,
Oh, there's definitely some silliness.
and I get
Yeah.
that it's a video game and stuff.
Yeah.
I just didn't feel it fit the tone very well. I also didn't love that, like, outside of the two main characters, like, you don't really care about anybody else, right? They're just, and I get it. They're video game characters. They're NPCs. They're not supposed to matter.
You didn't like Gas?
I like Gas, but he, spoiler alert, disappears really quick.
Yeah, he does. He's only
not,
one
he's
scene.
not around long.
Yeah.
So no, I mean, I think ExisTenz is like a solid 7 out of 10 movie.
Hell yeah.
I mean, I put it in number 5 on
Yeah,
my
no,
list,
that's-
so,
yeah.
and there are other films I've seen. So, yeah, I
Right.
liked it. If we would have gotten to the end of the movie and they take off their sets and reveal that they were in a simulation,
Yeah.
and then the game creator is like, so what did you think? And then she goes like, and it cuts
And
to black.
you would hate it.
I would hate that.